probably all know him. And I looked up his bio just because it's always nice to introduce someone properly. And I thought, well, I'll trim it, because it's so long. And no, he'll know that I trimmed it, so. And then I read it, and I thought, man, I've got to hurry up. So I'm just going to read this because it's just full of so many great things. Reverend Joe Sloan was ordained as a Unity minister in 1995. He served as assistant minister and then senior minister at Christ Church Unity in Kansas City North. In 2000, Joe and his wife Lynn returned to California to pioneer Unity in the Gold Country in Grass Valley. He served that ministry for 12 years, turning it over to former Catholic priest from Ireland, now a Unity minister, Jerry Farrell. Joe has been the regional representative and now regional consultant for the West Central region for over 20 years. He's a member of Unity Worldwide Ministries, Standard Committee, Ethics Review Team, and the Ministers Evaluation Team. So we should be on our best behavior while he's here. Joe's passion for helping ministers and boards succeed in providing a loving, guiding environment for their congregations. He values his considerable work as an advocate for ministers and boards undergoing the ethics review process. Joe is an avid golfer, he walks, and a former long-distance runner who successfully completed the Western States 100-mile one-day trail run over the Sierras. I don't think I could have done that when I was like 22, so. He adds that it was a few years and pounds ago. In 2019, Joe received the Charles Fillmore Award. So please welcome Joe Sloan.
I'm from out of town. Why do people change things, We, this was many years ago in Unity of Auburn. We had one of our board members had purchased a beautiful picture of Jesus that used to be up in the altar in the Fillmore Chapel. And the minister at the time was not really a Jesus person, whatever that means. And so when we got the picture, we ended up, and we're up at the crossroads up here, and we hung the picture in the back of the room first to begin with, and then we hung it to the side, and then later we moved it a little bit further up to the front, and finally we had it up front, but that's the way you facilitate change sometimes. Unity of Auburn is real important to Lynn and I. As some of you know, Lynn was on the first board of the Unity of Auburn many years ago, and I became a board member, and in fact, I was the board president when we left from here to go back to Kansas City to ministerial school. So this basically is our home church, even though we started the church up in Grass Valley. So it's always great to be here, just to sit in the front or stand up here and give us a Sunday lesson. Sunday lessons are great. They're a lot of work. They really are. I don't know, and if you've had a presentation, 20 minutes, and you spend many hours getting it ready. Fortunately, it's joyous work. It would be a lot easier if you could preach as like the old-time preachers and just get up there and do the fire and brimstone thing. You didn't really need to. You just get a lot of material from your own life and get up there and fire away at all the captives that are out there. Such was the case over there in Ireland with Father Murphy. He was up there in the pulpit one Sunday, and he's given them the what for. He's firing down at the helpless and talking about the drinking and the gambling and all the stuff that goes with that. And he says, when the day of judgment comes, there will be great wailing and gnashing of teeth. O'Reilly's sitting in the front row. He's always a problem. And he raises his hand. He says, Father, he says, what if at the time of gnashing the condemned has no teeth? He said, you needn't worry. And the time of gnashing, teeth will be provided. I'm not going to do fire and brimstone. I don't want to scare people this close to Halloween. Yeah. Many years ago, in fact, obviously many years ago, I was in Boston to run the Boston Marathon. And I was being hosted by my good friend Jimmy O'Donnell, who was on the track team with me in St. Joe's back in Philadelphia. But and a good friend just passed away. Good Catholic boy passed away this year, as a fact. But they were wonderful hosts, and they took me for a ride on the course of the marathon from Hopkinton. You go on, you gradually go uphill past Vassar, Boston College. You make the big turn down Commonwealth Avenue. You can see the big ballpark off in the background, and onto the Prudential building. When we get back to the house, we go in and there's 2 notes on the kitchen table. One of them was from Tommy, the youngest, and it said, I'm going over to Harry's house and I'll be back about 5:30. The other was from Jimmy, the eldest, and he said, I am going out to seek the true meaning of life. I should be back at 6. But do we really want to know the true meaning of life? You know, think about it. It might come with some instructions that we might not wish to follow if we knew. And once we knew, we may feel an obligation to do something in confirmation with what it is we now know. But I'm going to take a little stab at the answering that question this morning. Perhaps not the whole question. I don't want to spoil your own personal search. That's a lot of fun. And something I'm going to do a little unusual. I'm not going to save the answer to the end like most ministers do. I'm going to tell you right up front. The true meaning of life is a journey back to your heart. Back to your heart. It's the whole thing. Probably would like a little more instruction than that, but metaphysics is really the language of understanding that we use in unity to explain things more mysteriously as part of the great historian and philosopher Will Durant once said that the metaphysics was a hypothetical interpretation of the unknown. A hypothetical interpretation of the unknown. Is that vague enough? Charles Fillmore just said that metaphysics was the science of being that transcends the physical. So it's a mystery, but it's a wonderful mystery, and we're all part of it. We love mysteries because intuitively we know that somewhere in the mystery is the truth. And so we keep searching for it. We love searching. Many years ago, one of the key speakers we had at our Unity West Central Region retreat down in Asilomar, a fellow by the name of Mike Matoyan. He was a rather famous Unity minister from Chicago. And he was telling us that he had given a talk one Sunday, and usual amount of people were coming around, shaking his hands and saying nice things. But he said he could feel this person that was just standing. He could actually feel her. And so when the crowd kind of moved away, here she comes, and right up to him and looks him straight in the eye, and she says, "Why?" He said, "What do you mean?" She said, "No, just why?" He said he thought for a minute, and finally he said, because. And he left it to that. The journey back to the heart is always a mysterious journey, as well it should be. There's thousands of books written about the journey, the path, the flow, the search, always looking for the truth. I had a book one time, I don't know where it is now, we have so many books at our house, but the title was The Last Self-Help Book You'll Ever Need. Well, it wasn't. I probably have 50 books since then, easily 50. Somehow we prefer the question to the answer. I think we'd rather live in the question. One of my favorite descriptions of the journey was written by Henry Van Dyke. He was a famous turn of the century author, wrote many wonderful books. But one of them was Days Off. It was the joy of going into the woods and somewhat sorrow of having to come back out of the woods. But in it he describes a place, he said, it's a good camp with plenty of food and water, and I think it's on the right path. And that could describe us here in Unity of Auburn. It's a good camp with plenty of food and water. And I'm sure it's on the right path, don't you think? Nodding of heads is appropriate at this time. Thank you. But sometimes that right path, that trail gets covered over with a lot of stuff, a lot of things from life. Hard to see. We stumble around and try to find the right way. Part of life. There's a story of two city boys. They were going hunting for the first time, hunting for deer, and by some dumb luck, they are actually able to get a deer. And so they're all excited about it, and they run over and they grab the deer by the tail and they're pulling it through the bushes, and they're having a hard time. And finally they come upon this old guy, and he says, boys, he says, I don't want to tell you your work, but it seems to me if you go around and grab the deer by the antlers, it'd be easier to pull it through the bushes. So they do. And they're going along, and so the one guy says, he said, that old guy was pretty smart. This is a lot easier. The other guy says, he's not so smart. We're getting further away from the car all the time. No matter how far we and how much we get tangled up in life or seem to be heading in the right direction, there's always a way back, always. Really, the way back is always right here with us, isn't it? Back to the source that created us, from which we seem separated. God does not separate from us. In fact, I heard this the other day. It sounded, God is always home. It is we that sometimes stray, go out for a walk. But God is always home, always there. How do we get separated? Well, it begins from the very beginning. You're in your mother's womb. It's nice and warm and wonderful there, and then there's a disruption, and you're cast out into this cold area, and somebody's pounding on your back, and next thing you know, you're in a cage with bars, and the only way you can get attention is to yell and holler, and people seem to be annoyed by that. And well, finally you grow up enough till you go off to school, and then the trouble really begins because you see all the separation. There's our house, and there's Tommy's house, and there's all different races and different colors of people, hopefully, and different religions, certainly. Our house, our neighborhood, and you get involved in team sports. Our team is going to crush this other team. Is that not separate? Crush them, we're going to crush them. I don't know why, but we are always driven by that ache of the sense of separation. We know there is something missing. And so we begin the journey. There's an ache restlessness. We're always driving off to somewhere, and when we get there, it ain't it. So we're moving a little bit further. It's never it. We're always moving on. Never satisfied till we get somewhere, and we never get there. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we always knew where we were going? There's a wonderful poem written by Martha Smock. She was one of the great women in the early days of unity. And this is what she said. It's been so important to me, I've tried to keep it to memory. Could we but see the pattern of our days, we should discern how devious were the ways by which we came to this place and time. And we would see the climb our souls have made up through the years. We should forget the hurts, the wanderings, the fears, the wastelands of our life, and know we could have come no other way, and grow into our good without these steps our feet found hard to take, our soul found hard to make. The road of life moves on, and we as travelers go from bend to bend until we come to know that life is endless, and we forever are inhabitants of all eternity. Wonderful word. Again, Ralph Waldo Trine said this in one of his books. He said there's a golden thread that runs through all lives. It ties us together. And that's why we come here and why we tune in. To come here, to come to realize that we are never, never alone. We are all tied together with that golden thread. And we like to feel the tug of it from time to time. So that's why we're here today. That's why we're looking in. It's a feeling, that tug of the golden chain. So I'd like to share with you an affirmation. If you'd like to close your eyes, you might wish to put your hands on your heart. I'll say it first and then ask us to say it together. God, I feel your presence in my heart. Together, God, I feel your presence in my heart. There's a wonderful Irish song, you're probably all familiar with it. It says, it's a look to the rainbow. So I bundled me heart and I roamed the world free, to the east with a lark, to the west with the sea. And I searched all the words, and I scanned the great sky, but I found it at last in my own true love's eye, my own true love's eye. At times like this, we come together so that we can see ourselves in each other, see the God in each other. And in that all too fleeting glance, we see our journey's beginning and its end, and the true meaning of life. There's a wonderful line from Garrison Keillor's Lake Wobegon days. Kind of sums up the way we think. He said, some luck is not getting what you thought you wanted, but in getting what you already have, which once you get it, you may be wise enough to see is what you would have wanted had you known it. Got that? What we would have, if we knew in the beginning, we wouldn't have wanted some of the things we did. I'd like to close with the words of a wonderful song for David Roth. Many of you may remember he's a troubadour that traveled the New Thought kind of circles. We did have him, I'm sure we had him at University of Auburn, and we've had him at Grass Valley. Wonderful songwriter. And this kind of sums up this journey, this birth, separation, coming home, coming home. He said this, leave your baggage behind. You've done more than your part. Before you fill all your loved ones, you must fill your own heart. Don't look to others for direction and deeds. the very first love that your heart ever needs. Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? You've kept away from yourself from the start, but will you come home now? Come home to your heart. And that's my wish for all of you today here with us and those who are viewing, that your journey home be filled with comfort and safety and great, great joy, knowing that you are never, never alone. God bless all here and all those with whom we pray.
When Joe asked if I was going to be doing the meditation, oh, please don't lower the lights too much. I can read it, thank you. Gratitude was what came to my mind. And so I chose this from a little book that I have called A Grateful Heart. How easily we can forget how precious life is. So long as we can remember, we have just been here, being alive. Unlike other things for which we have a comparison, black to white, things for which we have day and night, good to bad, we are as immersed in life that we can see only in the context of itself. We don't see life as compared to anything, to not being, for example, to never having been born. Life just is. But life itself is a gift. It's a compliment, just being born to feel, breathe, think, play, dance, sing, work. For this precious lifetime. Today, let's give thanks for life itself, for simply being here. So in this time of meditation, let's get comfortable in our seats and just breathe together quietly for a short time in the silence. We have so much to be grateful for. And perhaps in this quiet time, you might like to consider some of the things in your life that you are grateful for. You might want to just run a long list of them or savor just a few individually. So in the silence, we will consider some of the things that we are grateful for in our life. And such as life is, there are some things in our lives that may be difficult, that may be challenging. For instance, I I have some challenge with my knees, so I will be grateful for this pain in the knee that reminds me that I am never away from God and from my heart, and that healing happens. As Charles Fillmore always said, Jesus Christ heals. And I believe that, so I am thankful for the pain in my knee that reminds me that Jesus Christ heals and I heal. I also have a challenge in my life with a person that I find that I am always critical of everything they think, everything they say, everything they do. I'm critical. So now I can look at that and be grateful that this person has come into my life to remind me that my job is to love unconditionally. Thank you for being there to teach me, to remind me that my job is to love unconditionally. And just for a moment, let's take some thoughts into our minds that perhaps are uncomfortable, that we want to be grateful for, and just look at them and see how you can be grateful for these unpleasant things that are in your life, in the silence. I am grateful for this church. I am grateful for all of you who came today in person and all those that are on the internet watching. I am grateful for this beautiful town that we live in. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. In the name and through the power of Jesus the Christ, we say together, amen and amen.